Great. So, hello, everyone. My name is Martin Barrera. I'll be chairing today's meeting. So, apologies about any technical problems that might have been occurring. It's all fixed now. Okay, 6 minute surgery. So, today's surgery will be about physics. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. So, yeah, if any questions, please let me know. Right. So, who am I? So, my name is Marta Barrera, and I am an education consultant. So essentially, you might be asking, what is the difference between an education consultant and a tutor or a teacher? That is a great question. So an education consultant essentially helps students with multiple areas, and they try to essentially, they're a bit more well-rounded, they're usually a bit more specialized, and there's a lot less of us, essentially. So in terms of education companies and education consultants, there are about 50 registered education consultants in the UK, between 50 and 100. Whereas in terms of tutors themselves, there are, well, thousands of them. So you might be asking, what's the difference between an education consultant, really? So a tutor would be usually a student or a teacher or someone who just wants to get extra money from tutoring, essentially. They just want to essentially they probably did well on the test. They probably teach it to others in a school, and they just want to get the extra income. They don't really specialize in those exams. Education consultants, however, our job is literally to give students an edge in applications. So I've worked with the University of Oxford before. You might find a webinar of myself and the University of Oxford on YouTube on the BMAT. So if you want the link, I'll send you the link on the chat. So if you want to check it out as well. So you might be asking, okay, so Martin, that's all good and all, but what are we doing today? Don't worry, we'll go over this. It should take about 5-10 minutes to go over this talk. I just have to go over a few things before we just go over the questions themselves. So give me 5 minutes, it'll be fine. If you want to watch my webinar it's official webinar with the University of Oxford, I include a 5A essay in the webinar. So if you want some session free advice as well, as some of you were asking on the chats, please check it out. It's just there. So I've worked with them in schools in the past, so you might know a few of them. So in the past, I got in touch with Eton College, Oxford International College, Newham Collegiate Sixth Form College, etc. So if you go to any of these schools, there's actually a bit more than them, but I'm just giving you the most well-known ones. So if you go to any of these schools, you will hopefully see me around, as I will probably be giving you a talk here and there just before your BMATs. But yeah, so I've worked with many of the top schools in the UK and overseas. Currently, I'm working with a school in the Emirates, in the UAE. So yeah, I'll just say that I am quite experienced when it comes to university applications. I've helped students to apply to the universities in the UK, in Hong Kong, Singapore, in Europe, America, Canada, etc. Everything you can think of, I've helped students to get into those universities. So yeah, unlike common belief, no, I'm not first either. I love some people think I am really old, but I'm not that old, I promise. However, what I do offer though is the best advice, at least one of the best advice you can get, because I take the BMATs every single year, and my score was 6.895A. So I got a 9 in section. So section 1, there was a bit of cheating in like that year, so I would argue that my score was higher. But yeah, A levels, 3 sciences, double maths, and 3 languages. Do not recommend. I've helped writing some books, some guides here and there. I've taught the BMAT for thousands of hours now, not hundreds. Thousands. I did 8 A levels, yes. I do not recommend it. I got A stars and A's in all of them, but I do not recommend doing that many. It's too much. So yeah, so I'm a member of the IACAC. So essentially, the IACAC is this association for college admissions counselors, which is essentially this certified board. You can only join if the university invites you or a school. So I was one of the 500 global independent consultants. He was invited by university because they felt like my advice was worthwhile. It's this collaboration, essentially. I help bridge I'm like a bridge between students and universities. So for example, let's say that you want to talk to a university representative. I have the direct contact, so I can help them out with this. And for example, if you have any questions, I can kind of not really skip the queue, but I have direct access to your representatives. And this can be extremely useful, especially for international students, because they might want to talk with a representative, as it is in their best interests, as universities are also looking for talented students. So essentially, I help universities to, not formally, but informally, I help universities to recruit the most talented students. So yeah, I've worked students from the BMAT, the TSA, ECA, ENGA, the SAT, and the ACT. I've also helped with Olympiads. So if anyone here does the chemistry Olympiads, I was in the International Chemistry Olympiads via selection camp for the UK, which is top 10 in the country for chemistry. So yeah, I'll stop flexing though, but yeah, if you need more help, I'll be giving some advice. Please put it in the chats. It can be not just the BMATs, it can be Olympiads if you want to do them. If you want help with extracurriculars or supercurriculars, debating, public speaking, this kind of levels really. So yeah, if you need advice on the BMAT or other tests, it can be the IMAT, TSA, NSCA, BMAT, just go for it. Spill. So I have a YouTube channel. I personally removed all the videos from last year because I wanted to update them. I haven't quite gotten the chance to do that because I've been so busy, as I had over 100 students this year. So about 30 of them are private, and then the rest are from schools. So yeah, I have quite a busy schedule, so I haven't uploaded them. But hopefully, I'll be making some webinars with Oxford again this year. At least that is a plan. Oops, maybe I spoiled it. Okay, if you want my contact, because I own our /BMAT exam as well. So essentially, it's this community on Reddit. So I've noticed that many international students go on Reddit to ask for help. So I thought, well, I'll just start my own community. So this year, we actually have over 10,000 views by now. I don't remember how many we have. This was like taken on the 3rd of September. So 3 days into September, we had 4.6K views, 4.7K. So pretty much everyone taking the BMAT nowadays checks this out. So if you want to know what other candidates are doing, don't feel free to check it out. We've answered thousands of questions. We even have a frequently asked question guide. So any questions you might have, it has probably answered here. What's the BMAT? What are the so-called BMAT sections? How should I prepare? Should I get courses, tuition, what books? All that has been answered for you. So if you want to check it out, I recommend that you do so. We are used by over 180 BMAT candidates. Inclusively, last year, Cambridge Assessments reached out to us because there was a bit of people they kind of used our forums to discuss the exams, so we had to kind of close down for a bit. But it's all good. This year, it's much more moderated now. We have a whole team of medical students from universities, including Cambridge. We have people from Leeds. We have from KCL, Oxford, etc. So if you have any questions about university as well, we can ask them there. We highly recommend it that you check it out. Also, don't forget to check out 6meds because they are essentially the ones that invited me to this webinar. So feel free to check them out as well. Okay, so there's a frequently asked questions guide, which I've already talked about, but let's get going to the actual webinar because that's what you've been here for, right, guys? You want to know more about physics. So what will you get away with from this webinar? So I've done the research, so you don't have to do it. That's literally my job here. I essentially do the research so students don't have to do it. I'll make your preparation more efficient. So do you need someone to help you out in the exams? No, you don't have to. However, it helps because instead of you trying to find strategies, instead of you trying to get all those guys, get all the materials, they're all there for you. So I know how to get a 9 and I help students to get that. That's literally my job. Yes, I am. So if you want the frequently asked questions guide, it is in the chat. So you'll get away with quantitative information. So let's look at what you must learn without wasting time because the BMAT is 30 days away. I believe it's 30 days. So you have time, but you don't have time, if that makes sense. You have time to learn the content. You have time to prepare. However, you can be doing a lot more. You have the right guidance. That's all I have to say. Remember, this year, the BMAT is in October. Last year was in November. So most of you might know that, it's on the 18th of October. So some of you might have half term on that week or the week after that. Last year in the BMAT was in November. So people had 2 weeks to prepare for the BMAT, like half term. So they could spend 10 hours a day for 14 days, give or take. Probably more on the BMATs. Nowadays, those 14 days of 10-hour revisions are gone because half term is before the BMAT. No, it's after the BMAT, I mean, sorry. So yeah, that means that those who can make preparation as efficient as possible will get the best marks, essentially, because your candidates, your competitors, are not as qualified, mostly because they don't have those 2 weeks to prepare. So it is a great year for those who have the right guidance. So yeah, you guys are showing up here, so well done, because I would say that you guys are some of those students. You hopefully do well. I will also answer any questions you might have. If I don't answer, you can contact me or you can contact SixMeds. I've also dropped out the group chats for SixMeds in the chats if you want to check them out. So the SixMeds WhatsApp group chats on the Discord server. So I am there quite a lot. I just use Martin, so if you message, just say, hey Martin, I'll probably reply. I check those quite a lot, the group chats on WhatsApp. Discord, not so much, because I'm not a big fan of Discord. Yeah, so I also go over some questions as well. Okay, so physics, it's your next favorite subject. Or, okay, so I want to know if anyone recognizes this joke here. So your next favorite subject could be physics. You just don't know it yet. If anyone recognizes the reference, good job. You know this. So yeah, this is a reference for the cyber, training. So I thought it'd be a good humor to include in this session. So yeah, your next favorite subject could be physics. You just don't know yet. So one thing that I'd like to include is gravity is not a force. And this is something that I've been telling my students every day. For breakfast, they get this good morning message, gravity is not a force. Remember this, guy, because a lot of students, they make this error in the units and they drop this mark just because they believe that gravity is a force. It is not. G is the acceleration due to gravity. It's not because of gravity. It's due to gravity. It's a bit different. So remember, guys, it is not a force. Gravity is not a force. Okay, a bit of info bombing just here and there. So the BMAT will be a 2-hour exam. It will be on paper this year, unless you ask to sit section 3 on a word processor. So they'll be on Word. I personally prefer this because I just like to, I like to type on the chats all the time. My job is on a laptop, so I type loads. Some of you might love gaming or writing, so you might just be typing quite a lot. Yes, you'll book it with your school. If your school doesn't offer it, then you can go to the British Count, like the British Count. I think it's a British Council. I think that's what it's called. They essentially offer some seats, so you can sit your BMAT on a British Council test center, or you can sit it with your school. I recommend it sitting it with your school because you're just familiar with that environment. You might as well. So this year it costs 75 quids or 100 quids outside of the UK. This does not include admin fees or examination fees. So if you're booking it externally, you might have to pay a bit more to include, invigilators, the admin fee, all that stuff. So yeah, it's going to be at least 75 quid. It has 3 sections. So section 1, critical thinking and problem solving. They're all multiple choice questions. Section 2 has biochem, physics and maths, all multiple choice questions. And you have an essay writing section. And that section has 3 essays. Choices, you just do one of them. So it can be philosophy, it can be science, or it can be medicine and medical ethics. The key dates are all available here. If you want to register, deadline has opened. Registration has opened. The deadline is essentially 12 days away. So yeah, be careful. Don't forget about it because you can't register after this date. Those 3 applications also close on the 30th. Your test date will be in October, not November. To be the 18th of October, 2022 at 9 a.m. And the UCAS deadline is on the 15th of October. So yes, you have to sit the BMATs after UCAS. So you will get your results on the 25th of November, 2022, and universities will shortlist you from the 18th of November. Yes, you heard that right, 18th. So Cambridge sometimes send invitations to interviews before you get your BMAT results because they have access to them. Why they release them a week after, I don't know. So yeah, I believe it's like some principles like universities get your A levels a bit before so they can prepare for clearing and all that stuff. So yeah, university will shortlist you from the 18th of November 2022 up to March 2023. So it could be UCL, Imperial, etc. They do an interview before this. But yeah, today's session will be on section 2. So it has 27 multiple choice questions, 3 sciences and maths, and you have half an hour. So you have 1 minute and 9 seconds, give or take, 1 minute and 8 seconds to do each question. So yeah, this is the BMAT distribution score. Can you guys tell me where you're applying, by the way? Tell me Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, UCL, Leeds, Brighton, Lancaster. Leeds, Lancaster, Leeds, UCL, Oxford. Imperial, Leeds. Ooh, nice. Out of curiosity, anyone for dentistry? Leeds dentistry, because Leeds for dentistry also uses the BMAT. So any Leeds dentistry applicants here, they're quite rare. So yeah. Okay, so Leeds dentistry, nice. You guys are very rare BMAT candidates. It takes me a while to find people like to do Leeds dentistry. I have only one of my students out of the hundreds is Leeds dentist, and yeah, so it's quite rare to find them. So any Oxford biomed students as well? Anyone applying for Oxford's biomedical sciences? Just wondering. Any Oxford biomed students there? Looks like there aren't any. Okay, so mostly medical students, but there are a few dentists here and there. Okay, so you might be asking me, Martin, what score do I need for my university, right? That's something that you might be thinking about, isn't it? So do you guys want the safe scores, like the ones that will probably guarantee you an interview, or do you want the cutoff scores themselves? So you want the safe scores. Okay. So, okay, so for reds, so I'll just make a sheet here. So reds, for students. Blue, international students. International students that have a different cutoff score. Okay, so if you're home students, you want to get 6.5 and above for Oxford and Cambridge for medicine. Also, Oxford Biomed. So Oxford Biomedical Sciences also is recommended to have a 6.5, but not required. But just get them to sit. Any Oxford med students, you want 6.5 or above for medicine. In terms of a cutoff score, you'll be in this area. So this will be the cutoff for Oxbridge usually. For Oxbridge, you want 6s. Anything above that. For international students, you want 7s and above. For your international students, you want these scores here to have a strong chance of getting into Oxbridge. International students. Okay. These are the Oxford stats. So private schools. So private schools, you want to be in the red area, just because, as you may know, you are compared against in-school students because of your contextual scores. So if you are a private school student, you want to get reds in the red area, minimum. I recommend getting 6.5 or above, because if someone from a state school has a 6.5 and you have a 6.5, they'll be picked. So remember, if you go to a private school, you must get, just aim for the highest possible, which something they should be doing already. Grammar schools and private schools are both, the red area because they're both selective schools. If your school is a selective school, then you might want to go for the red area because your peers, you are being compared against your peers for BMAT as well. Do you know that? Your Oxbridge can see not just your BMAT score, but the BMAT score of your school as well. So they will compare you against other BMAT candidates at your school. So they have this kind of data available to them. So yeah, do be careful because this will, especially this year, because of the GCSE being taken less into account. Your BMATs be taken more into account. If you're the only BMAT candidate, then great, good for you, bro. You are quite one of the lucky ones. So yeah. Okay, so international students, you want in a blue area. Local students that go to private schools and grammar schools, you want the reds. Those from widening access backgrounds, 6 should be fine. Sometimes even the 5s, but this is like the risky area. This is like risky for widening access. For Oxbridge, I've seen it, but it's quite rare. It's the exception rather than the rule. Okay, so these are the Oxbridge stats. Now let me get on to the Imperial and UCL ones. Okay, so again. For Imperial and UCL. /UCL. So these are the scores. So, so do you guys want your cutoff scores? I'll include both for now. So safe scores. It should be your safe scores. Home students. International students, same thing as Oxbridge. Doesn't really change many things. With Imperial and UCL, they usually go for 5.8. So if you are a home student, the cutoffs tend to be in the 5, like high 5s. So 5.6, 5.8, 3A, 3.5A. This should be like a good cutoff score usually for Imperial and UCL. For home students, again, if you go to grammar school or you go to private school, then you want to get higher than this because again, you're competing against those. But as far as I'm concerned, these should be safe scores. The cutoff will be somewhere around 5.5 and 6.0. Visit also, so if you are from a widening access background, 5 is quite risky, but again, the exception rather than rule. If you also participate in like that scheme, because I believe that Imperial, they have the pathways to medicine from Southern Trusts and other schemes, like some summer schools. I know the KCR has a K+ program, so if you get into those, I believe that they reduce your offer, but this might have changed because of COVID, but I'm not 100% sure on this one. But from previous years, this was the case. Okay, so these are the ones for Imperial and UCL. Now, some of you are wondering, okay, what about Leeds, Lancaster, and BSMS, right, guys? Isn't that what you're wondering? Okay, so a safe score for those universities is 5 and above. You can get in with 4s, but it's more about the cutoff. So the yellow is the cutoff, the red is for home students. And then for internationals, you want 5s. You want like high 5s. But I recommend being a 6 for internationals. 6s are recommended for any university, no matter what, if you are international students. BSMS has usually lower scores. So this is for Leeds. BSMS has a tremendous. I'll go on to that. But there is a bias against private schools. So if you are from private or grammar, you want to get reds to have a good chance. If you're international, then you want blue or above. I even recommend getting a 6 because I've seen some cutoffs being quite high for internationals. So 6s to be pretty much guaranteed. 5s, 0.5s in that area if you want to be in the hopefully fingers crossed area. So yeah, and finally, so these are for both sections, by the way. So you want like a 5.5, 3A, or 2.5A for Leeds, Brighton, and Sussex Medical School, and Lancaster. If you're applying for dentistry, as you may know, there are 1,000 applicants for dentistry, and you have 80 places. So Leeds Dentistry, 1,000 applicants for 80 places. So as you guys can appreciate, dentistry is very competitive. So you want 5.5 or 6. It's just like applying to UCL or Imperial at this point. You want this at least. Well, you might be asking, how do I know all these scores? Well, I have some. Well, I looked for the Freedom of Information requests, and I did some. Well, I love stats usually, so I've been kind of trying to estimate the cutoff scores for different years, and I've kind of determined that for these years, recent years, those were the cutoff scores. They do change a bit. However, for my research, and I spent hundreds of hours because getting the Freedom of Information requests from different years, looking at the number of schools, so all these things factor. So I have a spreadsheet for how many schools got into Oxford and Cambridge. So let me just show you this. It's a very interesting stat, in my opinion. Let me just show you this. I'll put it on my laptop. Just give me 1 second. So this is for Oxford, but let me just show you this. So this is the stats. So essentially, it has like this. So there's like the number of applicants that got into Oxbridge for all courses, not just medicine. I have the one for medicine, but I'm just showing you like how they differ for each college. So Balliol, 6 people from St. Paul's Girls' School got in. Another one, let's say Christchurch, Dubai College, 3 people got in. St. Paul's Girls' School got 5 at Christchurch. In some colleges, some people from different schools are more likely to get in just because history, and they probably have like a network, or they are within the catchment area, like the access and outreach area for that place. So yeah, I have this for. So essentially, I kind of work through this data, and I've made my own data essentially to kind of predict the scores of different universities, including what school you need based on your score as well. So yeah, there's a lot of research behind this. I do indeed, but I only have a limited amount of time. I can't show all of those, unfortunately. But yeah, I have quite a lot of data, and I haven't just made these numbers on the spots. A lot of it is just data that came from hours, hundreds of hours of research. Yeah, we're going for physics, but yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, if you have questions about the cutoff scores, please just let me know. But I'll put them in the chat because I want to go with physics. So biggest problems of the candidates for physics. So lack of knowledge. So students, they don't know the content of those. You haven't done it since GCSE, or your school wasn't as good in teaching it. These are the most common scenarios. Some people haven't even done physics. So it's mostly because, maybe there was an interruption of studies, etc. So most of the limiting factor in physics is lack of knowledge rather than lack of techniques. So bad time management. So if you can't do a physics question because you don't know it, don't try to just do like a Jimmy Neutron moment where you can just kind of have to remember it from like 3 years ago. So yeah, don't just try to remember something that you don't know. It's not worth it. It's not worth your time. If you don't know it, if you can't do it straight away, skip. It's not about doing the hardest questions. It's about how good are you at getting marks every minute. So this is the key here. And lack of planning. So some questions are more like puzzles. So think about a method before attempting it. So you might just be confused. So yeah. So there are 7 questions for physics, just over 1 minute per question, and these are the most common topics: waves, electricity, mechanics, and nuclear physics. So it's important that you do well in BMAT because it's more of an opportunity rather than a hurdle, as you can tell. So this year there were 29,000 applicants for medicine. And I believe there were 6,000 applicants, if my mind doesn't fail me. So you're competing against many more people that have taken BMAT before. And it's important that you don't just, don't fall behind this. The BMAT is an opportunity for you to show that you deserve the place more than other people. Okay, this is what you're here for. Question walkthrough. Great. So a submarine uses sound frequency of 600 hertz, so frequency 6,000 hertz, to locate obstructions ahead of it in the sea. A pulse of this sound reflects off an object that is 750 meters in front of the submarine. The pulse returns to the submarine 1 second after it is transmitted. Okay. So it's asking for the wavelength. So we know the distance, put it as x equals 750. The time is going to be 1 second. So speed equals distance over time to find the speed of sound in the water. Interesting. It should be 750 over 1. And then this will be 750 meters per second. Okay, all good. So that's going to be C. C equals F lambda. The thing is, it's worth remembering that it's 750 in front of the submarine. So it's going to be 50. Imagine the submarine is there. So it's 750 meters this way. 750. So you actually must multiply by 2. That's 1,500 meters per second. So C equals F lambda, and then lambda is C over F, which is 1,500 over 6,000, which is going to be 1 over 4 meters, which is 0.25 meters, which is going to be 25 centimeters, which is feet. So yeah, that is how you solve a question in physics. Right, next question. So what is the diver's kinetic energy as she hits the water, and what speeds does she hit the water? Okay. So Viva of mass 45, so 45 kilograms. So it's asking for KE and speed of it. So it's going to be GPE gains. Oh, yeah, you're not allowed a calculator. Someone said to go back 2 seconds. Yes, so there's an app called IQ Test, which I love doing. There's also one called Quick Maths. They're on Android. I'm not sure about iPhones and Apple because I don't do loads of things. So why did I multiply by times 2? Okay, so the object, so a pulse of this sound reflects off an object that is 750 meters in front of the submarine, okay? So it goes 750 this way, and then it bounces off 750 meters again. So you have to multiply by 2, because it's not just one way. It goes like this, and then like this. So it does not travel 750 meters once. It travels 750, 750. So it's times 2. And this is why you multiply by 2. Yeah. Okay, so for this question, GP, gravitational potential energy lost equals KE gains. This is the key for this question. Okay, so MGH equals, so let me just do like the MG, like GP just first. GPE equals MGH 45. 45 kilos plus 10, second on the kilogram, and then you multiply it by maximum height, just 10. It's going to be 4,500 joules. So that should be the KE, all good. And then the speeds. So KE, so if GP lost was KE gained, so we have 4,500 joules of energy, kinetic energy. So 4,500. There's actually a better way to do this. So MGH equals a half mv squared. Cancel out the masses. So 2GH square root of that speed. So V equals square root of 2 times 10 times 10, which is going to be the square root of 200, which should be V equals square root of 100 times 2. Square root of 100 is just 10, so V equals 10 root 2 meters per second. Which is E. So yeah, this is what you should do for these kind of questions. And one final one, because a lot of students struggle with this because they get confused. And then once I'm done with this, I'll go on to the Q&A to answer your questions. So thorium 232 is an unstable nuclide. Okay, what's the symbol? Wait, they're asking for. So this is just wasting your time. I don't really bother with it. So all the emissions during the sequence are either alpha or beta. Okay. One of the intermediate nuclides, which after 4 alpha and 2 beta decays, is a nuclide of an element named X. Okay. So 4 alpha and 2 beta. So 4 alpha plus 2 beta. So you have thorium. So you can make an equation like this. So 23290 thorium decays into 2 alpha. What's an alpha particle? Is 42 Heg plus. That's a helium nucleus, essentially, if you don't know. So it's going to be 42. So 42 alpha. But if you have 4 alpha particles, you actually have 4 of those. So you'd be losing 16 and 8. I like to do it this way. It's just like algebra. 16, 8 for alpha. A beta particle is 0 minus 1. Beta plus 0 minus 2. Beta minus plus X. And now we just do an equation. So in terms of the mass number, you do 232, so it's going to be X and Y. So 232 equals 16 plus X. So X equals 232 minus 16. That's going to be 222 minus 6, which should be 216. So it's going to be one of these. Straight away, get rid of this, out. Now, 90 thorium. So make an equation in terms of the, atomic number. So 90 equals 8 minus 2 plus y. So y equals 90 minus 6. So this is 6. So 90 minus 6 is going to be 84. So it's C. I raised my case. So yeah, if you want more help, then you can check out my YouTube channel and r/BMAT exam. I'm one of the moderators for that community. You can check out the group chat as well. You can check out other 6-minute surgeries, social media. Yeah, we'll see. As you can see. You can get BMAT books, BMAT Ninja, or 6-minute master classes if you want. You can get courses, tuitions, and bundles. If you want some reviews on some companies, then we do offer them here as well. And yeah, it's going to be Q&A time now. And if someone asks, I'll go back to this question. Oh, I think you got rid of it. Oops. But yeah, while I'm going back to this, I'm just going to check the Q&A. So if you have any questions, please ask. So how do you prepare for section 3? Well, how do you prepare for section 3? So let me just include this. So that's that. And then let me just do this. Okay, so I've answered section 3 questions. So we'll be going over one section 3 session, one surgery. However, in the meantime, there is a webinar with the University of Oxford. So if you go to the Q&A to the answered, there are 2 links. One of them is a group chat with 6-minute one, and you have the BMAT webinar with Oxford as well if you want to check it out. So have you done a chemistry and biology webinar? Not yet. We will be doing that next week and the week after that, I believe. And tips on how to, actually, I don't think there's a biology one. I don't think there is a bio one. I was not asked to do bio. Let me just double check this so I can give you the correct information. So yeah, I was not asked to do biology. So I don't think there'll be biology one unless I'm told another one. But as far as I'm told, people above me told me to, well, is that? I don't think that was in my list. Let me just double check. They might have a spreadsheet. 6 months, surgery. Oh, they've made one. They've changed it. Okay. Yeah, there'll be a bio one. They've changed it. Cool stuff. Here you go. Right, that's sorted. 1 month is more than enough to revise. But remember, different schools will have different requirements. If you are a school, grammar school like it's like selective. So someone here was from Brampton, others might be from Needham and other schools. Remember, if you go to a selective school like Brampton, Needham, LAE, Greenheads, all the private schools as well. So there's a lot of them. If you go to those schools, you'll be expected to get a better score because contextual stuff. So yeah, what scores on BMAT should get an interview at Oxbridge? I would say that 6.6 should be solid. So 6.6, 6.6, 3.5 should be solid. That should pretty much guarantee an interview, assuming that your GCSE is also pretty good. For Oxford, your GCSEs matter. For Cambridge, not so much. Okay, so how much should you be revising per day or per week? I'm telling my students to do 5-6 hours a day now because the exam is so close. You should be doing as much prep as possible. And you know why? So you guys spent about 180 hours, 150, 180 hours learning A-level content in school. The BMAT is more important than A-levels, right? Because it's the one that will determine if you get an interview. It's the test that allows you to compare you to people that did over exam boards, and it's how you compare people that did the IB with A-levels, with Gaokao, with the NM, with the SATs, the APs, all these exams. So yeah, the BMAT is that exam that will determine if you deserve an interview. So you have to do as much as possible, essentially. It's more important than your A-levels at this point. Okay, so this is it. Okay. Section 3. Are we going to use handwriting? Yes. You can do section 3 on paper, but I kind of found this hack where you can do it on a laptop if you want. You just have to ask for special consideration, so you can just get given that. So it's a bit of a loophole, I guess, but how much can you realistically improve in a month? I'll be honest. I've had students, who went from 3s and 4s to 7s and 8s in a month. I've seen it. It's possible. So the work they put now is what we'll tell. If you don't have the right guidance, and because it's also sorry, I can't say the word. It's also about making prep efficient. So you have a lot to do. So it's really useful for you to just know what to do. So if you have the right guidance and you prepare properly, you can get any school that you work for. What's limiting you is how much time you put into it and the information. Those are your 2 factors that will limit your performance. Can I get a good score without doing maths and physics A-level? Yes, you can. I've had students who haven't done maths and physics and they still got 6s and 7s. So yeah, it was enough for Oxbridge. So it's possible, but you have to revise the curriculum because the BMAT is not just GCSE. The BMAT is GCSE for all exam boards. It's not just FXL or AQA or CIE or WGC or CCEA or the SQA from Scotland or OCR. It's different exam boards. So it's all of them combined. So what might be GCSE for you might be A-level for someone else. Some people have not covered kidneys in GCSE. They did that in A-levels year 2 or A2 if you are in Wales or Northern Ireland. So yeah, it's definitely worth bearing that in mind as well. So, yeah. It's very specific where you mark section 3. Yes. So I'll be honest. I could give you a whole 1 hour lecture on how to do this. So it's a question that's going to take me ages to go over. So can you email me that question, or you can ask me in WhatsApp. I'm in the 600 group chat. I have my own group chat as well, and you can ask me that and just ping me or tag me, and I'll hopefully reply to you as soon as possible. How do we cover all the content efficiently? Well, it really depends. For example, I had some notes that I've used for my students, so I give them notes, like custom-made notes for the BMAT. Some people just use the Section 2 knowledge guides. So you can use the Section 2 knowledge guides. You can use the CGP book, or you can use the notes provided by the school or by a tutor. Because efficiency is relative. Because, for example, you might be better at learning visually. You might be better at learning when someone's speaking to you. You might be better when someone has notes for you. You might be better at flashcards, Anki. So it really depends on how do you learn, essentially, because it's not a hard rule. It's tailored to you, essentially. So it's more of a bespoke thing, if I'm being honest. So I can't really answer the question because I don't have enough info on how you learn, essentially. What resources have I used for my BMAT prep? Well, I actually bought every single BMAT course and book in existence, and I'm not exaggerating. I have them in like my shelf next to me. I personally found most of them useless. I decided to actually make my own strategy instead, and that's how I got a 9. I don't attribute my score to a book or any course because I feel like they were too generic. So yeah, I've made my own strategies. I just use past papers. I try to make strategies for different question types, and I got a 9. And that's how students get 9 as well. Like one of my students got a 9 in section 1. He'll get an 8 in section 1 too. So yeah, I would say it really depends because different resources have different weaknesses, in my opinion. Again, it's my opinion. It's not, has nothing to do with anything factual. It's just my experience as a tutor and education consultant. How long do you recommend covering the physics section? My students did 20 hours, so you might want to do 20 hours as well. They did 20 hours and they are getting 6 to 7 questions right out of 7. So they went from 2 questions right, 2 out of 7, to 6. Sometimes people make silly errors. Can't guess 100% all the time. In about 20 hours. Yeah, that boosts the score by 2 straight away because they were much confident with physics. So yeah, I recommend 20 hours. Some people do less. Some people find that it's too much. I personally feel like it's the best because that allows you to go over like the application of the questions. Like, for example, I went over graphs and, for example, how they might be flipped. They can give you a speed distance graph or a distance speed graph. So it can be flipped, and that can change the shape of the graph, and you have to interpret it. So I tell people, how do you do that? What are the possible scenarios where they can use a specific graph? So it's not just learning the content; it's also about thinking as an examiner. So how can they put this in an exam context? Essentially, that is what you should be asking. It's not how long does it take to learn the content. It's not just that. Content is about 40% of your score. The other 60% is, so how can you make your questions more efficient? How can you make a 2-minute question a 30-second question? That is how you get a 9. It's not because if all of you had 2 hours, 3 hours to do the BMAT, you would get 100%. So it's all about finding strategies which cut your time down from 2 minutes a question or a minute a question to 30 seconds or even less. Unrelated to physics, but how do you recommend the rubber technique? People use it. Why not? I personally don't do that. I personally think of spatial reasoning as geometry. And so from my experience, I was able to get questions right, especially reasoning, a lot quicker because in the beginning you have to do this, you have to kind of rotate it, and it looks a bit suspicious. And if the invigilator asks you what you're doing, then you're wasting time. So instead, I try to think of it as geometry, and that increased my my speed in it. You can't reset the BMAT. You take it once every year. So yeah, can only take the BMAT. Okay, you can take the BMATs multiple times a year if you're not applying. So for example, I'm already in uni, but I take the BMAT twice a year. So I sit the February BMAT and the October/November BMAT. So I can give them my students the best advantage. So you can do that. But if you're applying to a university, if you visit the October BMATs, then you can't take the February BMATs because they will put you in a lot of trouble. They will ask you, why have you done this? And they might consider that cheating. So yeah, do not in any circumstances do this because it can put you in a lot of trouble. Yeah. So in Oxbridge, the high GCSE grades still compensates with mediocre BMAT scores of around 5s. Depends. So if you have 13 to 14 A stars at GCSE, then 5 should be fine for Oxford. For Cambridge, not so much. It could be depending on like the admissions tutor, but as a good rule of thumb, so I see this. So a good BMAT score makes up for bad GCSEs. But a bad BMAT score does not make up for good GCSEs. That's how I describe it. So Oxford trusts their tests a lot more than high school exams. So because they wrote that test, they trust it. So if you get like, let's say 2 A stars at GCSE and you get like 8s in BMATs, Oxford will be like, okay, let's just ignore his GCSEs. Let's look at his BMAT score, shortlisted. And how do I know this? Well, one person got into Oxford with 3 A stars and they had 8s with BMATs. I have the stats for this. I've been doing a lot of data chunks. I've been looking at the data, and yeah. You can get into Oxford with 5s, 100%. But remember, it's the exception rather than rule. If you look at like the mean score for BMAT, the average for the offer holders, it's 6.5, 6.6. So yeah, if people get in with less, people get in with more. But you don't want to be below the average. You want to have a score. So if you get 5s, you'd be like, maybe I will not get in, maybe I'll get in. And that can be a bit discouraging. So I'm talking about safe chances. Sure, you can get into Oxford 5s, even 4s. That has happened before. But just because they happen doesn't mean that it's the rule. It's more of an exception. Because remember, university can see your whole application. So yeah. Also depends on each year. For example, sometimes like BMAT scores might be lower for some years. So it's not just 6s. Like you can get in with less, but it's still, bit worth bearing that in mind. Okay, so do I need any A-level knowledge for section 2? Yes, you do. A-level, the thing is, it might be A-level for the exam board because for me, it could have been GCSE. Like in my board with the kidneys, people in other exam boards haven't done it. So yes, by definition, the BMAT is not just GCSE. It's GCSE for all exam boards, which makes it an A-level exam as well for all exam boards. Yeah, already answered this. Practice questions for section 2. So you can do the NSAA, the BMAT, the IMAT, the ANGA, and that should be it. So you can use those papers. So BMAT, NSAA, BMAT, NSAA, ANGA, and IMAT for section 2 question practice. Some of them might be a bit too advanced, but it still helps as they were written by the same people. I'm just starting my revision. What's an effective revision plan? So learn the section 2 knowledge guides and then start practicing. Practice, practice, practice. Get strategies right. Strategies are very important in BMAT. If you want to get a good score, you must not just focus on contents. Because it's all about improving your score by, well, you just have to save time actually. Like BMAT is an exam about how efficient are you at solving problems? Because in medicine, you need to, well, you must make split decisions that are right. You can't make errors as a doctor. So this is assessing that skill. Like, can you make a decision that is correct? And can you recall knowledge quickly to support the patient? Because imagine like a patient is dying and you're just thinking, okay, so what's the mitochondria again? Oh yeah, 5 minutes later, how hard is that? Patient's already dead. You might not know what they need. So in medical school, we have loads of multiple choice question exams. So yeah, you need to have a plan which also takes strategies into account. So rubber technique, ish, depends. If you're applying for Oxford, you only need the BMAT. The TSA is not used at Oxford Med. You just need BMAT. Yeah, I'm doing a session on section 3 as well. Yeah, you can improve loads of scores in a month. You have enough time to improve it. Yeah. I mean, if you want notes, I personally don't make many notes when revising for the BMAT. Well, at least I didn't when I prepared. Like, I feel like notes just waste time because that time could have just been used for doing questions. So yeah, I don't really think that's that useful to make notes. If you learn that way, then go for it. But you do not have a break in each section. No breaks. No toilet breaks. No breaks. You will not be allowed. So for Cambridge, different colleges use the BMAT differently. For Oxford, it's standardized. So for Trinity College, they are the college that requires high BMATs. They're actually more BMAT focused. For St. Catherine's College, for example, they are the Olympiad College. So they'll be a bit more lenient on your BMATs, but they'll be asking high BMAT for section 2. So Trinity might be like, okay, so let's see what's high 6s for this person here. St. Catherine's might just want section 2 because they're like the Olympiad College, and then the interview might be a lot harder than the one at Trinity. This is just an example, by the way. It's a bit more complicated, but this simplifies it quite nicely. So yeah, at Oxford, it's all the same. At Cambridge, it's different for each college. So yeah, three different papers. So you do section 1, they take that paper away. Section 2, you do it. They take that paper away. Section 3, you do it. They take it away. That's how you do it. So it's like 3 exams, but without any breaks, essentially. So 3 separate exams. So if I only got 6 or 7 A stars, would I have a better chance? Oxford or Cambridge? Well, depends on the A levels as well. So A levels and BMATs. For example, if you are getting, because Cambridge is harder for interviews because they have about 5 people being interviewed for each place. Oxford only has 3. So if you are better at interviews than Cambridge, if you're better at BMATs than Oxford. Because Oxford has less competition for interviews because they already do a lot of shortlisting on the earlier stages. Yes, so 10.9 in section 1, section 2 for Lancaster is achievable. Yeah, just like mid-5s. That's not too bad. It's not too late to start revising for the BMATs. Okay, so yes, you'll be able to watch recordings as well on the 6Med website and the YouTube channel eventually. They'll be available. So yeah, don't worry about it. 5.7 is a good starting score. It depends. Is it BMAT 2003 or BMAT 2019? Because all papers are a lot easier. So like, if you get like a really good score in the all papers, does not mean anything. Because since 2019 onwards, the papers got a lot harder for both section 1 and section 2. And section 1 even changed in 2020. So it's a good starting score depending on what you're using. Because if it's like a platform that just wants you to give you a false sense of confidence, then it's not a good starting score. If you've got that score from a hard paper, then it's a good score. It really depends, unfortunately. And what score are you talking about? So 10.9 across all three. What section is that from? So 5.7. So I would say it's all right, but for Oxford you want a higher score, especially you're like a month away. You want a higher score, but it's plenty. It's fine to have 5.7 now. Lancaster 10.9 across all three. I would say it's fine, but I would say you should be aiming for a bit more than that. In my opinion, you should get at least 4s. 5s are advised. Okay, so someone asked me about this that has been answered. Contacts. The UCL Imperial add your total score? Depends. UCL is a bit more. They're a bit weird in their shortlisting because Imperial has like a cutoff score for all the 3 sections. So section 1 has a cutoff score, section 2 has a cutoff score, section 3 has a cutoff score. With UCL, they are a bit more holistic. They look at your whole score instead of just each section. Oxford is using GCSEs, but not as much. So I've talked with some admission tutors, and they said that they'll be using it, but to lesser extent. It's because it's still being used as of center assessed grades, so CAGs. So my voice is so dry. Yeah. So do I have water? I swear I had a bottle of water there. No, it's gone. Unlucky. But yeah, so Oxford is still taking BMAT into account, but it's less in previous years. There are this is just my guess. If I was to guess, I would say about 20% BMATs. No, there. 20% GCSEs, 80% BMATs. But that is a pure guess. I don't think they'll be taking the GCSE into account as much because there were still predicted grades, and it was still the COVID incident, the whole pandemic. So I would say that it will be less than 50% because in previous years it was 50-50. So 50% BMATs, 50% GCSEs. This year, I would say it's less, probably like 10, 20, 30%, if that. Hopefully less. So if you get the A star, can it be in a non-science? It can, but it's not recommended because you should be aiming for an A star in chemistry because Oxford loves chemistry. So Oxford loves chemistry. Imperial cares about GCSE, but not that much. Imperial is just a bit more of a heavy university. They do care, but it's not as much. I would say just most BMAT for Imperial. Yeah. So there is like a review of like different companies. So people asking about different companies. So subreddits our /BMAT exam has reviews on different companies. So if you want to check that out, feel free to do so. Yeah, you don't need a DSA for Oxford's. 4th A-levels don't make your application more competitive unless it's Cambridge. So Cambridge is the only university that looks at more than 3. Any other university does not care. So if you're applying for Cambridge, then yes. If you're applying for any other university, they don't care. AAA for Imperial, I recommend getting that bump to an A star just in case. But yeah. UCL look at them holistically. So they don't look at just your BMATs or just your GCSE. They look at them like it's a whole application. So for example, it varies. So how good is your business skills? How good are your references? How good are your GCSEs? How good are your BMATs? How good is your BMATs? And then they look at everything and then they make a decision. So Oxbridge looking at business statements. So yes and no. So there's in the sense that Oxford's they don't look at your if you meet the cut-off score. So basically, the medical school has like a system, like an algorithm. The algorithm shortlists about 350 students automatically. So they don't look at anything. It's just the computer. And then there's about 50 to 100 places where that, they were not shortlisted, that they just give place to. So for example, if someone didn't meet the cutoff score and they have a good, they will look at personal statements, references, BMAT, they'll look at everything as a whole. 300 are automatic, and remaining, they look at your personal statements, everything else. At Cambridge, they look at everything. The scores are not a bell curve. They usually should be, but in recent years they haven't been. But hopefully they'll be again, because in the last 2 years it was online computing, a lot of technical problems. So hopefully this year will be bell curve. Right, guys. So I am going to call it quits. If you have more questions, you can reach out to me on 6 minutes. So again, that's for BMAT exam, and that's the 6-minute one. Let me just give you the link. So if you have any questions, I'm more active on the BMAT exam one. But yeah. Yeah, there you go. I'm more active on the BMAT exam one, but if you have any questions, please ask me. But yeah, sorry guys. I have another meeting. So yeah, hopefully that helped. And yeah, if you have any more questions, then you can, just email 6 minutes, or you can ask me that. So yeah, goodbye guys, and good luck with your application, and see you next week. Bye.